The end of 2019 is near. We're gonna say goodbye to it and say hello to 2020. Hopefully, it will be an interesting year. So, what happened in 2019? Yes, I started this private experiment, started this YouTube channel called Desktop Monologues, mostly made for myself, but I know that it affected a few people out there, and I am glad and grateful for that. So I will keep doing it, but mostly for myself because I like it, and I will talk about things that matter to me. So far, I mostly made videos about my new journey into the world of Linux. So here are my videos that I made. The first one was switching the OS from Windows to Linux more than 3 months ago. And I made a couple more videos about my switch from Windows to Linux Mint 19.2. Then I made a few videos about video games, my thoughts on violence, but also the relaxing video games that are out there. I made a little overview over Tomb Raider that I played on Linux, and then I made at least one video about Void Linux, which I find extremely interesting, a project that I would like to delve more into. I also made a couple of satirical videos, such as Get That Song Out of Your Head in the boomer style, but of course this is also the guide how to get a tune that is stuck in your head. I give the solution at the end of that satirical video. I also made a satirical video about how to change old hardware and install Linux. Of course, postscriptum is don't do it that way. I tried also LXLE Linux that I installed on my 13-year-old Dell Inspiron laptop, and I am still running LXLE desktop. Then I made this video about 5 apps I'm using in Linux. And finally, I made a short video that has nothing to do about the rest of the content on my channel. And it is about Peter Handke, who just received Nobel Prize in Literature for 2019. This caused a great deal of controversy in the world because Peter Handke is a known genocide denier of Serb army atrocities in Bosnia during the 1990s. So I made a little anti-tribute to Nobel Academy and Peter Handke. So what will I do in 2020? It will be, of course, still about Linux, but also about Windows, I suppose. The thing is that I am saying goodbye to my current computer, and my setup is Intel i5 4460, and I am getting rid of it. I'm upgrading to Ryzen 5 3600, and hopefully I will receive these components in a couple of days. So this might be the last video I'm making on my 4-year-old Intel i5. I will also install Windows on the new computer along with Linux Mint. And I thought about it in a really, really long time, and I just concluded that the only reason I'm installing Windows is because of the games, actually. I can play a lot of games in Linux, there is no doubt about that. So far, I actually installed and played these 17 games in Linux. And these are just, I made the special a folder called Linux. These are the games that I installed and tried and played successfully. So all these games are playable completely in Linux, and there is no problem about it. And I'm so happy for that Arma 3 is working. City Skylines, one of my favorite games, and Company of Heroes 2, and Everspace, Football Manager, and Fasted Planet, Life is Strange, Before the Storm, Insurgency, Northgard, and so on. These games work in Linux, and this is great. But of course, there are a couple of games, especially those so-called AAA games that do not work in Linux. And Far Cry 5, I know GTA 5, and I know people found solutions how to get them to work, but these are somewhat cumbersome and difficult, and it's not the optimal way of doing it. So I will most likely install Windows 10 on a separate SSD, and I will use it solely for playing games. That is my intention, at least. So everything else, also gaming, all my productivity will be in Linux still. So these are the changes that I will do in my next computer setup. I hate those, New Year's resolutions, but I have few thoughts what I would like to do in the next year. I'm an avid book reader, and this year so far I read, I think, 22, 23 books, and I would like to read more than 20 books a year. Also, I would like to watch more so-called premium films, and this is a discussion, for some other time. What are great films? But for some reason, I really used a lot of my time this year watching really crappy films. A lot of them. So I would like to focus more on really quality films, the ones from Tarkovsky and Woody Allen and so on. Also, I would like to make some videos while building a city in the game called Cities Skylines. As I said, this is one of my favorite games, and currently I am building a city called Delina, I think, and you can see the progression so far. This is my city. It started like this, and then it went slowly, and it became a quite significant. Here is the new airport. Here is the downtown area, and it grew slowly. Here's another part of the city. Well, actually, it's a village on its own so far. And it went on, and it grew into this so far. And so I would really like to make some videos about the progression in a building a city, So this is probably something that I will do a series about. Also, I would like to learn more about some aspects of Linux, and even maybe learn how to use LaTeX or LaTeX. That's at least an intention or idea I have at this moment. So, what books would I recommend to read, or what are my favorite books I read in 2019? The first one that I would mention is Homo Deus, A Brief History of Tomorrow by Israeli historian called Yuval Noah Harari. As it says here, Homo Deus examines what might happen to the world when old myths are coupled with new godlike technologies such as artificial intelligence and genetic engineers. Yes, Homo Deus, that's what it means. God-man, a man-god. This is a great book. I also read his previous book called Homo Sapiens, and Harari has this rare ability to engage his readers and give them a lot of information. So if you are interested in human history, Harari and his books are great introductory sources. And so I can recommend Homo Deus by Harari. Another book, and this is fiction, is South of the Border, West of the South, written by the great Japanese writer Haruki Murakami. This is a wonderful work, and just like any other Murakami book that I read, he has this great ability of giving you an insight in a man's psyche, his thoughts, his emotions. And for some reasons, every protagonist in Murakami's books are very human, but also very fragile, very emotional characters. And this is what I really like about Murakami. And the South of the Border, West of the Sun is no exception to it. So I can wholeheartedly recommend this book. We can say what it says on his official site. Born in 1951 in an affluent Tokyo suburb, Hajime, beginning in Japanese, has arrived at middle age wanting for almost nothing. The post-war years have brought him a fine marriage, 2 daughters, and an inviable career as the proprietor of 2 jazz clubs. Yet a nagging sense of inauthenticity about his success threatens Hajime's happiness, and the boyhood memory of a wise, lonely girl named Shimamoto clouds his heart. And this is actually what it's all about. It's Hajime's thoughts, and so it's a very interesting book, and I recommend it. The third book that I will recommend is Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking by Susan Cain. And it's a great non-fictional book where Cain argues that our society do not understand and actually don't value enough the traits and capabilities of introverted people. I found this book very interesting, and it should be an eye-opener to many people that at least are not aware of introverted people and their traits. So, great book. So this is what I read so far. Let's look at the movies that I watched this year. I watched a lot of films, but the ones that I would recommend, I actually didn't watch a lot of great films, and this is something that really bothers me. So let's see. Movies that I rated best are Another Year, Lucky, The Remains of the Day, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, and Before the Storm. Another Year is a movie and directed by Mike Leigh. It's a tragicomical drama. It says here, during a year, a very content couple approaching retirement are visited by friends and family less happy with their lives. And this is typical Mike Leigh movie. I like this movie. It's not lightness, but the natural approach to movie making. It's as if we know these people, these characters in the movies, and everything just flows smoothly. So a very good film, yet another a great film by Mike Leigh. The second one is Lucky, a movie directed by John Carroll Lynch. It follows the journey of a 90-year-old atheist and the quirky characters that inhabit his off-the-map desert town. I really love this movie. I also like the protagonist character wonderfully played by, unfortunately, late Harry Dean Stanton. He passed away, I believe, last year, and I think this was his last film. It's a wonderful, warm film about people and their daily lives. In this particular case of an older gentleman wandering through life. The Remains of the Day. I actually rewatched this film this year. I made also a video about the film on my other channel called Film Magistry, And I really love this film, directed by James Ivory. What it says, it's a rule-bound head butler's world of manners, and the decorum in the household he maintains is tested by the arrival of housekeeper, played by Emma Thompson, and he actually falls in love with her. We are witnesses to this interpersonal dynamics between these two characters, and how they are interacting, but also how their manners and the way they speak, talk, and behave, how these constraints do not allow them to basically be themselves. And I think that James Ivory explored this side of at least British culture in a masterful way. So I can really recommend The Remains of the Day for any film lover. A great film, no doubt about that. I also liked the new film that's directed by the Coen brothers. It's The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. It's not profound and deep film, but I really like these vignettes that this film consists of. I believe there are, 6 stories, and they all take in the old West. The last one I will mention is the Danish film called Before the Frost, Før Frosten in Danish, directed by Michael Nør. The film takes place in the Danish countryside in the middle of the 19th century. Here, within a small Danish peasant family, harsh circumstances reign. With the prospect of yet another tough winter, the farmer Jens faces an unbearable choice. If the family is to survive the winter, he must settle an agreement with the rich farmer nearby and forsake his own moral as well as his most precious possession in an effort to secure them all a better life. As you can hear, these are all very existential and moral topics that are part of human life. And I think that the director really encapsulated all these dilemmas that a man can find himself in. So Before the Frost, a great, actually a little gem that is probably not known to great masses. So this is it. I do not wish to ramble more about things, except that I wish you all the best of your life 2020. That's it. Bye.